Hi lovelies, I thought we would do a little bit of seated practice today. So if you need to grab some cushions or whatever it is, feel free. You could even do this on a chair. There's no specific reason why you can't. I think there's nothing I'm planning really that you couldn't do on a chair, so that might be good too. So you can sit or you can kneel. I've got myself a little one of those flat blocks that I really like to sit on, but really anything that you've got handy so that you feel like your spine can be kind of neutral. It's definitely worth just spending a few breaths here, just seeing how you're sitting. What tends to happen is that as soon as we bring our feet in, our lower back kind of collapses backwards and we end up really struggling. I'm exaggerating obviously, but by just raising the hips off the ground a little bit, this lower back can almost come kind of forwards a little bit in more of a neutral shape. So hopefully while I've been chatting, you have got yourselves nice and comfortable. We'll just have a little wiggle side to side just to see where the body weight is falling. So does one hip kind of feel heavier than the other when you come to stillness, or do you feel nice and balanced? And just take your hands wherever they end up, whether it's on legs or whatever. Keeping that uplift through the spine. Let's just shut our eyes for a few breaths. Tune into you today. Tune into today's practice. And then keeping that uplift through the whole of the spine, so not collapsing our posture, we can just drop the chin to the chest, so still staying relatively neutral with the back, just dropping chin to the chest, and that can give you a nice feeling of stretch down the back of the neck. If you want to, if your neck's okay, back's okay, you can interlace the fingers and just rest them on the back of the head. It might not feel great for you, so if it's too intense, it's definitely not compulsory. Nothing's ever compulsory. And as we go through our practice today, just noticing where you might feel any tightness, where you might experience any blockage in the body, where it feels light and full of ease and where it doesn't. Then keeping the hands in this position, you can just lift the heart space and open up through the front of the body. So we're taking a little bit of a back bend, but what tends to happen is the shoulders rise in this one. So pull your shoulder blades down towards your waistline and just taking it to the level that you want to. We haven't warmed up really, so don't overcook it. You might think more about lifting the heart space than taking a huge back bend at this point. And then releasing back to neutral. Let's just have a look at the way we've interlaced the fingers and change the way they're interlaced. So mine were like this. I had my right thumb, right finger, left finger, etc. And all I've done is just change that. So now I've got left, right. If you come to my classes, you'll be familiar with this most likely. So I'm going to start sitting upright again, just finding that neutral position, dropping chin to chest just like before. I might stay there, or I might decide to rest the hands on the back of the skull once again. And just because it was fine the first time doesn't necessarily mean it's fine this time. So if you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. You make this your own. But notice if there's any difference with the way that we've changed the cross of the fingers. Has anything changed through the rest of the body? And then coming back through neutral, and again taking care to pull the shoulder blades down. Think about working the elbows back, lifting the heart space, noticing again where the body feels full of ease, maybe a bit spacious, and where it really doesn't. And releasing back to neutral, release the hands. Right, so we'll take some shoulder rolls. So breathing in, shoulders come forwards and up. Breathing out, back and down. And these can be as big or as small as you want. You can make them as mini or as exaggerated as you feel like you need to be in your body right now. And the movement might travel all the way down into your hips. You might find that your hips are rocking backwards and forwards, or it might literally just be shoulders, whatever works for you. Keeping it smooth. And then as you are ready, we will change direction. So breathing in, back and up, breathing out, forwards and down. Take your time. And we'll just do one more. Lovely. And find that nice neutral sitting position again. If at any point you need to change the way you're sitting, please just do that. That's absolutely fine. Like if your legs have gone to sleep or something, you might want to change it. It's all good. Okay, we'll go chin to the chest again. And then this time on an inhale, we'll curl the chin up, looking over one shoulder. And then exhaling back down to the centre. And inhaling back up the other way. So exhale back to the middle. Inhale up to this side. And lots of us experience clicking and clunking. So as long as it's not painful, you're generally okay. We'll do one more each side. And then when you finish it in the centre, just lift the chin back up into neutral. Great. Okay, so we're going to interlace the fingers once again. Push the palms forward. So keeping that upright position of the spine, that like neutral spine, so not pushing the middle of the back backwards. Everything stays there. So just push the hands forwards. And draw them in towards the heart space. And exhale, push them away. So drawing in on the inhale. And exhaling. I'll do one more of those. And then this time, taking them up towards the ceiling. So allow the shoulder blades to lift to begin with. So really push the hands up. You can see I'm kind of squashing my head there. You might feel that's going on for you as well. You might not. And then from here, I'm going to draw the shoulder blades down, and it suddenly becomes a lot harder. So you might find that your arms have had to bend a little bit. That's fine. They might still be straight. If they're hyperextended like mine are there, you can see my elbows are doing something weird. Yeah, don't do that. I only know I'm doing it because I can see it on my screen. But yeah, don't do that. This. So pull the shoulder blades down and see where the arms want to be. It hopefully will feel like a pleasant stretch rather than anything painful. So keep the breath flowing, just noticing what the body is telling you. And you can stay still, or you might want to put a little bit of movement in here. We're going to do some side stretches in a minute, so you might not want to go big on those at this moment, but perhaps just having a little bit of movement in this position, just to notice what is going on in the body. Right. And then we're going to release the hands and keep the arms quite strong. Bring the elbows out and round to the side. And then just relax for a moment in the middle. Great. And then whichever way you had your hands interlaced, see if you can interlace them the other way. So there'll be a way you do it without thinking, and that'll be the way you did it before. So we're going to do it the other way. Great. And then once you've discovered that, again, keeping shoulders down, we'll push the palms forwards to begin with. And just noticing what your experience is at this moment. How is the body weight distributed? Is it still equal, or has something happened around the kind of midsection of the body? Lovely. And then from here, we'll take the arms up without really arching the back. So if you find you're doing one of those back bends, see if you can draw the lower ribs in. So drawing in here, finding length through the front and the back of the body. Great. And then on an inhale, drawing the hands down this time towards the crown of the head. And then on an exhale, pushing the hands up. So inhaling them down, exhale, push up. Sometimes it's all the little bits of movement between the stretches that we get the release from. So again, you might feel it that it's a little bit clunky and clicky, and that is fine. Just do one more of these. And then releasing the hands once again. Great. You might want to have a wriggle, you might not. You might choose this moment to adjust your seat. That's all good, whatever works for you. Right, so we're just going to stick with the hands for a moment. Let's just have a bit of a finger stretch. So I'm obviously not trying to hurt myself here. I'm going to start with my hand kind of out flat. Just see how the fingers feel. Just a gentle encouragement of a stretch. Not like kids do to torture each other sometimes, or maybe that's just in my school. And then from here we'll go up to the wrist. So that was fingers. We're going to go up to the wrist and just kind of see, how does that feel? Is it tender? Can we feel anything? It doesn't really matter. Just if it's useful for you, if you're getting some sort of sense of tightness that needs releasing, that's what we're after. And then we'll swap hands. So starting with the fingers, just seeing, how's that feel? Can we get a release? And then moving up to the wrist. Does it feel like a constructive thing to do? And as ever, if it doesn't, don't do it. You can sit this one out, that's fine. Great, and then we'll make fists. So the fist shape's not super tight, but just a gentle kind of ball, and we'll stretch the arms out straight and just circling the wrists. So I've gone symmetrical directions there, but it doesn't matter if you did something slightly different. Just circling around. Where is it smooth? Where is it easy? Where is it full of ease? Where is it a little bit trickier? We'll change direction. Always a bit weird, I think. Great. And then keeping the arms out straight, kind of at shoulder height. I'm just going to flick, as if we're flicking off water. The stronger you do it, so the harder you do it, keeping the arms out straight, the more heat you're going to build up here. So if you're already hot, then take it easy. Just a couple more of these. And then just relax. Let's have a little check-in, so shutting the eyes. And then as you're ready, coming back to practice. Great. Because I'm rubbish at lefts and rights and reversing them, I'm not going to try and mirror you here. So maybe if you try and do it the same side as me, rather than trying to mirror what you're seeing on the screen, hopefully we'll all end up in the same sort of position. So I'm going to take my left hand down, so if you take your left hand down next to you and just circle your right arm up, stretch up to begin with, reach for the ceiling, and then keeping both sit points grounded, so check out where your body weight is. Take a side stretch over to the left and keep stretching up and into those right fingertips, seeing what goes on for you once you start to come into this position. And this left shoulder is a real problem. I see it a lot where this happens and it just does not look comfortable. So see if you can keep the weight squarely in your sit points and give this left shoulder a break, so some space between your left ear and your left shoulder. Reach, lengthen. You can look up to that top hand if that feels good, but obviously you don't have to. And then gently coming back up through centre, we'll take right hand down. Just reach left hand up to begin with. Check out the body weight once again. Where is it falling? And then taking the side stretch. So watch this right shoulder. Great. Stretching, stretching, stretching into the left fingertips. And again, you might want to look up to the fingertips. You might not. Come back to the centre. Lovely. You might want to have a little twist, you might not. So just a couple of moments to free move however you want to. We're actually going to do a similar thing again. So if you are experiencing any back niggles, especially through those the QL, the quadratus lumborum, that goes kind of between the back of the rib cage and the back of the hips, you'll know it if it's twingy. If you're experiencing any issues there, just be really mindful of how much of this you want to do. You can save this for another day. It's totally fine to pick and choose. Remember, it's your practice, it's your body. I'm just a guide. So, left hand down, right hand up, and again we'll take a side stretch. And is it feeling any different this time? Is your right sit point still grounded? And just moving the left hand away slightly, perhaps, because we want a little bit of space under here. Then you can either stay exactly where you are, or on an inhale, you can lean back ever so slightly, and on an exhale, kind of thread the needle, bring the right arm down underneath. So if you've done one and you're feeling like it's not really for you, that's totally fine. If this is feeling really nice, great. If it's just kind of stiff and you don't feel like you've got much space, that's okay, so long as it isn't painful, your body's not telling you to stop. We'll do one more of these. And gently releasing back to the centre. Have a little check in with both halves of the body. Can you feel anything different in both sides? Then we'll take right hand down, left hand up, side stretch this time. Again, you might want to stay, you might want to create a little bit more room, and on an inhale, just open up through the heart space that little bit more, and on an exhale, left hand comes down. It's likely to feel quite different on this side. So every little bit of that movement, just tuning in what feels constructive, what feels useful, what feels like we're releasing tension rather than bringing tension into the body. We'll just do one more. And then with care, coming back to the centre. And again, we'll just take a moment of stillness. What feels like it's going on for you in the body? Where can you feel movement? Where can you feel sensation where perhaps you couldn't before? And do you need to adjust your seat? Great, one more variation on that if it feels good for you. So left hand down, right hand up and over. And this time we're going to kind of draw some big circles with that right hand. So imagine you're drawing circles on the ceiling. They might be, I say big, they might not be big, and that's absolutely fine, obviously. Again, we're looking for a sense of opening, of kind, supportive, nurturing release for the body. So if it's not feeling particularly pleasant, then maybe just read those signals your body is giving you. And again, clicking and clunking is not necessarily intrinsically terrible. You might change direction with your circles, or if you have a pattern that was really feeling great, you can obviously stick with that. Okay, just finish this last one. We'll come back to the side stretch this time before we come back, and smoothly coming back to the centre. Great. Checking out how you feel. Right hand down, left hand up and over. And then again, maybe drawing circles on the ceiling if that is feeling appropriate. Check out the right arm again. Has it got all tensed up and squished? Or is it still nice and spacious, easeful? See what is going on through the whole of the body, not just the moving part. And changing directions should you wish to. to the side stretch. And inhaling back to the centre. Great. And sorting everything out in the middle. Let's have a twist to one side. Doesn't have to be huge, and again you might move your legs, that's absolutely fine, but just twisting to one side. A few breaths on this side. And then gently switching to the other side. Coming back to the centre, and again if your legs are really comfortable, that's great. If you want to adjust them you can, so they might go straight out to the front or whatever, because we're just going to take a little forward fold, so if you'd rather do it with legs in this sort of position, feel free, whatever works for you, but just a gentle forward fold. So keeping the sit points down either on the cushion, the block or the mat, wherever they are, and keeping the heart space open. So if you've dropped your chin and really rounded in, see if you can just come out of your fold slightly, keep this part of the body nice and open, and lead with the heart space as you come into your fold. Good. And then coming back up. Lovely. We're going to come down to lay on our backs now. If you wanted to have a bit of a wiggle on your journey down, you can. So I always like to have a little bit of a twist, as you probably know. So that's you, that's great. If you're already down on your back, that's totally fine. We'll catch you up in just a moment. Great, so coming down with knees bent up towards the ceiling. We're going to try and go for about 90 degrees at the knees. So if you've just automatically got your feet in quite close, see if you can just walk them out so that this angle here is kind of a right angle. And then we're going to take the feet out, just wiggling them out slightly wider than hip distance, and allow the knees to knock together, and just settle the arms onto the mat for a moment. And just noticing again anything that feels like it's moving in the body, anything that feels a bit static. And then reaching the arms up towards the ceiling. You can, if your legs aren't really comfortable like this, obviously you can adjust them slightly. I think I'm going to take feet and knees hip distance apart, but it might be different for you. Just going to push the fingertips up towards the ceiling, and then pull the shoulder blades towards each other with the spine. So I'm not bending or straightening my arms, I'm just moving the shoulder blades kind of away from my spine, and then towards each other, meeting kind of together underneath me. So pushing fingertips up, and then pulling them back down. One more of these. Great. And then from here, I've totally forgot what I was going to do. Welcome to my practice. Let's just practice them while I remember what I was going to do. Oh, I remember. Okay, we're going to take right arm under left arm and find eagle arms. So perhaps you can bind all the way around, perhaps you can't. So you might kind of be here with your hands apart. You might go back to back, that's the back of my hands touching, or you might bind them. It's good, whatever works. And then we can, as you look at your arms, you can just roll them slightly to the left so that we just get a bit more of a stretch across the back of the right shoulder. So it's just a little rock to the left and then back to the middle. So my hips are staying dead still, my legs are staying still. It's just the upper body, it's like the miniest of twists, but it kind of releases, hopefully, across the back of the shoulder, or wherever you feel it. So one more of these little movements, and then coming back to centre. So we're going to stick in this position with the arms for a moment. The legs, you can leave them exactly how they are, or if you wanted to have a little go at eagle legs as well, then that would be right leg over left leg and a bind like so. And then we can just think about sliding the fingertips towards whatever is behind us, so the wall behind us, and then bringing the forearms back down. So I'm having to work my belly muscles a little bit as well. So you might feel your core has woken up just to protect your back. So ideally the back not arching off the mat, the back staying in contact with the mat, hopefully. Just sliding fingertips one way and then the other way. Let's just do one more of those. And then replacing the feet, unwinding the arms, and having a little moment's peace in the centre before we do the other side. And then as you're ready, we'll take left arm under right arm, finding those eagle arms to start with your version of. Might be really different on this side of the body, remember, so if it is, that's all good. Just checking the legs are comfortable, and this time it'll just be little rocks to the right of the upper body. So really quite small, quite controlled. It's the journey, again, between the two kind of points at each end of the movement which are helping us to release things. So it's all the points along that line as well as just each end of the line. So keeping the head down on the mat. And just one more of those. And coming to stillness, keeping that bind, and again you can leave the legs exactly where they are, or this time take left leg over right leg, find the bind like that. So just take a moment to send the tailbone away from the head, fire up the abs, and then sliding fingertips towards the back of the mat, and then coming back down. Great. So just seeing where the tightness is, where things move freely, where they don't. Couple more of these. And then release. Relax. Great. So let me just check the time. Lovely. Okay. So we've done lots of work around our upper body, our shoulders, lots of things which actually are quite energizing. They're bringing our energy up. We're thinking about the heart space a lot when we're thinking about our shoulders and things. So just to balance that, we're going to do kind of a hip opening, like a grounding thing, just to finish with before we hit Shavasana. There's two options. You can, if your hips are really tight and sore, you might just want to go with Apanasana, which is just knees to chest. So actually there's three choices. You might stay here, you might take it into a happy baby. So that's arms inside, legs outside, feet. If you have space and you quite like to, you can straighten off the legs, maybe holding the toes or the sides of the feet, whatever works for you. I'm going to stick with a happy baby. My hamstrings can't take that wide one without a bit of a warm up. So just finding what works for you and tuning into any niggles in the body. And again, you can be nice and still in this position, or you can be playful. Whatever seems to spring to mind. If you need the stillness, the steadiness, go for that. If you need the flow, then do that. So just a few mindful breaths in whichever situation you find yourself in. So you might think of this as a really grounding thing to do, and you might trace the back of the body on the mat. We're heading for our Shavasana, so you might kind of be preempting that with your thoughts of grounding and settling at this point. And then when you are ready, just releasing from that pose, then you might want to have one more big stretch or anything at all that kind of calls to you right now before we hit our Shavasana. So take a moment to discover if there's any movements that need to be had. And then once you are ready, finding your Shavasana shape, so a place that you can just relax in, whether that's still down on your back or not, whether it's legs out straight, knees bent, whatever works. And as always, I invite you to stay in your Shavasana as long as you comfortably can and suck up every second of juicy relaxation. Just notice anything that's bubbling up for you, notice anything moving around the body, notice if your mind wanders, just bring it back to just the weight of the back of the body on the mat. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste.